Yeah, I think you guys hit it on the head. I agree with most of what you said to HD. The thing is that she was harping on how to make a relationship work, and that lady was talking to she was it's the same statement because she was saying people who operate this way will have this type of discontent within a relationship. I think a lot of times if you don't and it's natural too. If the woman doesn't admire the man and she looks at him and wants to nitpick and pick things apart, naturally she doesn't garner the same respect level for him based off of that. And then he naturally feels emasculated based off of that. And then ensues the power struggle. What Inaz was describing was a power struggle-less relationship where it just they fit together and then they move together. In that environment, you won't have no problems. When I be talking about I won't be fighting and doing all this stuff, it's because of what Inaz is talking about. It's a power struggle-less relationship. Those fights only come from a power struggle. They primarily reside inside the power struggle.
But wouldn't
And
would moving up not be a change?
say it again.
So him moving up, would that not be a change
A change in what?
in him? So for example, if I meet you and I want you to progress in some type of way, I'm here to be your helpmate.
The issue
Is
is
that not a
the
change?
issue would be you wanting to make him do that. If he wants to do that, then he does that. And then goes back to what she said about being adaptable because you can grow with where he's growing to. But if you want him to be something that he doesn't like, say he's a bus driver, he doesn't want to own a fleet of bus companies, and you're nagging him to become a fleet of bus company owner. Even if
I get you.
he will be miserable the entire time.
I think I was just looking at change in different way.
Yeah, probably.
So,
Like, yeah.
so my question, I guess, is just in order to gain some clarity based on what you were saying from male perspective. Is it the idea that if the man change, you want your woman to adapt and change with you in terms of whatever those changes that you make? But if you don't change, but your woman is growing, is it the idea that the woman is just supposed to accept the man where he's at? You understand what I'm saying? Or is the expectation is that if she's growing and changing, ideally he should be too? Because in my mind, what I would see as an ideal situation where a marriage is going to last is that there's some flexibility between both. So I would think that as she changed, there's going to be just some level of changes and adaptability that he's going to have to make in order to kind of, in a sense, accommodate what those changes may be. And vice
Can I ask a
versa,
quick
if
question?
he change, she's going to have to make the adaptations and changes that is going to need and be flexible to whatever direction he's going. I just don't think that, it kind of sounded like, so correct me if I'm wrong, Marcus, that it kind of sounded like the way that I heard it was, if he changes, she needs to adapt so she can grow with him. But if he doesn't want to change and she does, she just needs to accept that he's not going to change.
Because all right, so in point and to simplify it, yeah. But the reason is the power struggle and the dynamic within a relationship. If she say they both were workers at Walmart and she becomes a doctor, right? If she becomes a doctor and she then begins to look down upon him and try and want him to change from that point, if he doesn't, that relationship is doomed forever. Now, if he becomes a doctor, he might just want her to accept a different role that it has strengths for her. He might not necessarily need her to become a doctor. He might need her to be the best stay-at-home mom and teacher. It it's the way naturally that we respond to each other and the expectations that women tend to have for men. So it cannot be equal in the way we discuss how change works unless they're both uh, in the relationship you describe where the woman changes for the better and the man doesn't. She then in her mind, if she becomes the leader of that relationship, the relationship is either doomed to fail or both of them will be unhappy. But if the
I have a,
man does it, then it's gonna proceed, and more than likely both of them will be happy because we are not the same.
can I ask a quick question before you jump in and ask? Why is it that when people get more money, people equate that to actually making change? Like, for some reason, the second that somebody gets a degree or gets money, is you equate that to, okay, now things are going to change. You work the same hours, you just make more money. Now, granted, you get more money, right? You can do different things. Most of the time, when people get more money, they actually make more mistakes. That's the reason why they say more money, more problems, because they're like, this is new money, and then you want to go and travel, you want to go do the things you never could do. So, in essence, like, I don't understand why the first thing, well, I'm not going to go into a soliloquy. Why do you think that when people be like, oh, I got more money now, that means that I quote unquote changed?
So typically, not always, there are other exceptions and variations, but typically with more money comes a different social circle. And so now there are different rules of engagement, there are different activities, there are different codes of conduct. The environment that you're in will typically be different than when you were making a different income. That's what the socioeconomic look like, right? Like there's a social component to certain incomes. Yes, that changes based on field, but that's typically how it is. So there does have to be a change in behavior in order to fit in with your new group of peers. That I just want to answer that quickly, but mistaken. I think instead of in that scenario of like the man is not changing and the woman is changing, there's a way to handle that where you're not, where there isn't a power struggle. Being curious about the person. What is it? Are you just comfortable and this is what happiness looks like for you, and attaining more or changing and shifting has discomfort? Is there a hurdle that he hasn't communicated to you? Is there something that's going on where, you know, maybe he's working on it in the background and isn't ready to talk to you about it? Like sometimes just being curious about the person creates a set of circumstances where it creates intimacy and you're able to understand each other even deeper than you initially thought, versus I'm doing all this stuff, you're not doing anything, and now we're struggling in the relationship. And I think to bring that back to what HD was saying earlier about the wise woman, I think that was on last night's show. There's a way to have those conversations even if you're looking to inspire change, because you're a helpmate. You're not the steerer of the ship, right? How can I help you? And sometimes you have to ask that question in a way where you guys come up with a solution together, or he comes up with a solution, and now you figure out what your role is in making that happen. It doesn't mean that that woman is doomed to be stuck with a man who's stagnant as she continues to grow. There are other solutions, but you have to handle that man with the respect and care and admiration that he deserves as the leader of the relationship.
I actually agree. There's no argument or debate there. I guess my concern was, I guess, the messaging, I guess, that I got from what Marcus was saying, that it's okay for the man to grow and a woman adapt to it. But if a woman grows, then she shouldn't have the expectation for the man to grow as well. And I see that, like Marcus was saying, I actually do agree, is that it doesn't mean the growth needs to be exponential. And in terms of, if we both met and we were both at Walmart and that was the initial trajectory, and then something happens and changes, and then the other person was able to get in a position and now they're here, and then for it to be like, I think it would be realistic to believe, like, if I'm here, right, as your woman, I want you here with me. You know what I'm saying? It's not a matter of me saying, oh, looking down on you like, oh, I'm up here and you down there, up, ain't got no time. 9 times out of 10, if a woman is in a position, I mean, just from, I guess, let me not say 9 times out of 10, just in situations, I realize that my life is a bubble now being in this space. So I have to preface that now. My reality is maybe not everybody else's reality, but the women that I've seen who were here were always reaching the hand down to pull their man up with them, to not only either get them at their level, put them in position where they're even higher, right? So I guess in my mind, looking at situations like that, like even using my own personal experience, was when I got my, me and my husband, we met in college. Then I went on to get my master's, and I remember he was saying, "I ain't ever going back to school. I'm done with school. I hate school." But then when I went to get my next degree, he was just like, "Nah, I can't have my lady out here looking like I gotta match your high," in the sense of saying, I want us to complement each other. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go back to school. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't that I even had to say anything. I wasn't like, "Babe, I need you to go back to school." It wasn't like that. It was just this a level of understanding. We want to always complement each other in terms of how we move, things that we're doing, things like that. So I guess in my mind, I was looking at it from that perspective. Like, as he adapts and he changes, I'm seeing him read, and I'm like, "Babe, what you reading?" "Oh, da da da." "All right, let me learn a little bit about this so I can be able to have a little bit of conversation with him about it, because I don't know." You know what I'm saying? Or give him the space to teach me. He loves that too. So gives him the space to teach me some of the things that he's learning, and vice versa. I'm gonna have those conversations. "Oh, babe, guess what I read about?" So I just kind of felt like it was a natural ebb and flow of growth and pulling the other person up, growth pulling the other person up. But I guess that's not normal. I don't know.